What's up guys, Ricky here. So what I wanted to do is I want to take you through a top 10 list of the top spawn of the new waves. So that means wave 1, 2, 3, and 4 so far. So what I did is I kind of looked through all of them. I kind of narrowed them down. I have my top 10. I have the runners up, the honorable mentions, and then I'm also going to have a few that I'm just going to say that are underwhelming, right? So the ones that I didn't put on the list because I think there was definitely some opportunities that I couldn't look past. So, and I'll talk through some of those. But yeah, feel free to like and subscribe. I hope you like the list. If not, and you disagree or agree, drop it in the comments. But I'm going to continue doing this because I've had quite a few people ask and recommend a few different things. So you could see some new things from the future as well. But before we get into anything else, let's get into this list. Okay, so number 10 on my list of top 10 new wave spawn releases so far. So I think that includes wave 1, 2, 3, and 4 is Raven Spawn. So I think this figure has exceptional details. So I love the look, I love the sculpt, right? This is both models. They did version 1 and version 2. So this one's version 1, right? Comes with the hook with the chain and then kind of like the traditional kind of axe. And then version 2 comes with a small hook and a really big axe. Both look really cool. But you can tell it has really good details. You can tell they did a brown over a black. So black base coat, brown over top, and then did a little wash. And I actually added some accents, some beige accents, which you can see, just to make it pop a little more. So I did do a quick customization, which you can kind of see, or at least talked about it when I did the Raven Spawn review. But very cool, very easy to do, but really brings out some of those textures. But overall, really cool looking menacing figure. Always liked the Raven Spawn concept and design. And I think they nailed it, right? And it's got decent articulation too, so you can get it in some pretty dynamic poses. It just looks very menacing. So that's why this one made number 10 on the list. Okay, number 9 on my list of spawns is Redeemer Spawn. And this is version 1 and version 2. And technically that one is called the Forsaken. So after reading the comics a little bit, I did find out that's the name of it. But it's the same body type, just different colors. So I like these. One, I think the wings have really good detail and textures. So one, they look really good. This one uses a black with kind of a gray dry brush over the top. This one uses a gray with a white dry brush over the top, right, to just make the textures pop. So I think they did well. This one kind of came with a little bit of black wash and stuff on some of the silver. I did add a little bit more just to bring out some of the details. And they both did it on the swords. So both swords came black washed and it looked really good. Now, Redeemer's armor, the original, the gold one, did not come with any wash on it, and it looked a little bit cheap, to be honest with you. It looked just very base, just bright blue and bright gold, so I did add some black wash on there, so you could tell, right? It kind of dulled it, kind of filled in the textures, just really made it pop. So that's it. But yeah, I think the overall design, I think the articulation, the muscular look, and the character itself, the Redeemer, is super cool. So yeah, I love the character concept, and yeah, just a fun figure to have overall. Like, I love the wings, I love that they're articulated, and you can get them to some really fun poses. So that is why these ones made number 9 on the list. Okay, number 8 on my list is Clown. And I have the Bloody variant, which is a GameStop exclusive, and the original. And both of these are pretty sweet, so I do like both of these a lot. So one, really good textures, really good details and sculpt, per usual from McFarlane. The bloody one I actually prefer a little bit more, so I love the blood accents they did on it. It looks very realistic, which I think is really cool. I did add some silver highlights just to, like on the zipper and a few little pieces there, just to make it look a little bit better. However, right, it came with some, some brown dry brushing on the belt, which looked really nice. You do have some dry brushing on the jeans, right, to make them look more like denim, which I think looks really nice as well. And the overall sculpt and just how fun these characters are, right, are pretty neat. So they did come with these really massive weapons. Both guns are different on both versions, but both come black with a silver dry brushed over the top. And they're also articulated weaponry, so you can get it some really crazy poses. And, I mean, it's just armored out the wazoo, which I think is really cool. But as far as clowns go, very cool clown figure. And, like, look at the face. Really good detail in the face, and look at the mouth. I think that's the cool thing. I think they did such good detail on it, right? You can tell they wash the teeth, you have the tongue, and you have like a red wash in the inside as well to really highlight that. So very cool idea, and I love just even like the roughness of the face. Like, look at the details, like all the acne and the scars and stuff. So super cool. But yeah, that is why this one made number 8 on the list. Okay, number 7 of my list is Cygor. So one, this is a really big figure, so very big, very good paint details. So if you look up close, right, so what they did is they did a black and then they did a silver dry brushed over the top. And they added some gold details and highlights, right, some blue metallics as well for the cables. So they did a lot of really good attention to detail on this one, which I think is really cool. You know, could I add a little bit more detail on some of these? Absolutely, but I didn't feel like it was necessary or needed. But when you look at this, right, you can see some different tones, right? They did like a gray dry brushed, or a lighter gray dry brushed over the black to get the face a little more textured and looking good. You can see the fur across, which is just solid black, but you could definitely add some to that. See, there's that face again. And then they added, you know, kind of red marks, you know, scrapes and scratches, and you have stitches on the belly and stuff like that. A very cool figure. The only tricky thing is that it is pretty difficult to pose. I notice the arms are pretty stiff. And what's tricky too is this little spot here, you know, the waist. If you arch them up too high, it just really exposes and shows. So that's the only drawback I have to this action figure. But overall, if you're just going to keep it in a pose like this, like a cool, like, you know, gorilla style pose, it looks really good. So yeah, so this one made number 7 on my list, just because of the extra detail, the size, and just kind of like the likeness of Cygor. Really fun figure, really cool figure to have. So, like I said, number 7 on the list. Okay, number 6 on the list is none other than Ninja Spawn. So this one did end up making the list for action figures of the year of 2022 as well, and it is a sweet action figure. So if you look up close, really good details on the face and the eyes. Right, I love the details on the sash. The vest looks really good. I did add silver highlights on all the buttons and the buckles to make it look more detailed. I did blackwash the swords also, and you can see those as well. But yeah, it came with some really cool weapons, right? Those cool swords on the back, the samurai swords on the front, and yeah, overall it's just one bad-looking character. I just love the way it looks. So really menacing, really cool looking. And that's honestly why this one made number 6 on the list. I just think it has some really, really cool details to it. So it's also articulated well, so you can get it some pretty cool poses, some really ninja-esque poses. So if you've not had the opportunity to pick this one up, I say definitely do it, because it is a really cool action figure. Even if you're not into Spawn, it's really, really cool looking. So that is why this one made number 6 on the list. Okay, number 5 on the list is Gunslinger Spawn. So I have version 1 here that came with the pistols and the rifle, and then I don't have version 2 because I couldn't get myself to pick it up for just the Gatling gun. But then when they released the model with the horse, I was like, absolutely, I'm going to pick that one up for sure. So one, same like I said with Ninja Spawn, like it's the character design, right? So really cool design, really cool jacket, really cool weaponry, really good attention to details. I mean, the hat and the face just look really cool. They complement on each other really well. I did do some custom work, just some black washes on both of these on the jackets and stuff, and some of the materials, just to make it look a little bit more rugged and better, in my opinion. And what I did like is I like the fact that they did some differentiation between the new version on the horse and then the original, right? You can tell the jacket is the big change, right? So it's more of like a burgundy style color, and then you have more of that blood red kind of traditional color from the comics. So they switched it up a little bit, but I think it's really cool looking. I'm glad they did. So it just adds some variation. But yeah, I love the detail. Since this one came with the horse, it makes it even that much better. So this one made number 5 on the list because, like I said, I just think they paid good attention to detail, and it's just a really fun looking figure and really cool to photograph. And I like to do photography on the side, so win-win. So this one was number 5 on the list. Okay, number 4 on my list is Omega Spawn. So this figure is insane. It's sick. I love the detail. I love the paint application. The character design is probably the coolest of any Spawn in my opinion. However, the price point is kind of the kicker on this one. So it is technically a mega figure, although it is pretty short for a mega figure, which means it's $50, right? So paying $50 for a figure that's, I mean, it's, I don't know, it's not really that tall, right? It's pretty small. You know, kind of makes it a little interesting, we'll put it that way. But overall, the figure concept, like I said, is amazing. So when you look up close at some of the details, one, they brown wash this and like every single strand on here is amazing, right? You look at the details on the side, all the horns are dry brushed, kind of the beige color, right? Which I think is really cool. You have the red kind of glowing pieces throughout, right? They follow that same design on the feet, right? You have the horns and stuff. And look at the face. That's literally one of the coolest menacing looking faces I've ever seen, right? and then they dry brushed the brown over the top for the horns and the spikes. And overall, it's just a solid figure. It's got decent articulation. You can do some cool stuff with it. I think if you can get past the $50 price point, it's a really good figure. And this one was hard. Sorry, this one was hard to not make number one on the list because like I really like it a lot. The only thing is there's a couple figures that I think I've had a little bit more posability out of, a little more versatility and usefulness out of, and I think it's a more reasonable price point. But yeah, this one did make the list on number 4 because it is such an amazing looking figure. So if you have the opportunity, go pick it up and see it for yourself. Okay, number 3 on the list is Spawn on the Throne, and this is a deluxe action figure, so it came with the throne and Spawn. And just like actually Omega Spawn as well that I just talked about, both of these figures were on the list for action figures, top action figures of 2022. So yeah, they're just amazing figures. Let's get a more up close look at this one. So I did blackwash the cape to make it look a little better. I did do a little highlighting and touched up a few things on the throne, but not too much. But this figure is outstanding. So 1, the articulation is really good. 2, some of the details on it are really good. So if you look at it, like 1, this throne, the details, I mean, you have bike handles, you have a rifle, you have saws, just all these really cool things. And even the face, like look at the face here. You got the cool wrinkles, menacing green eyes, you get wrinkles throughout, the chains. Like I said, really, really cool. So I did blackwash, like I said, a few things on it, not just the cape, but even some of the reds, because it doesn't come with any of those features, which that's the only drawback to it and the only bummer. But a blackwash is easy enough to make look cool, and it just really makes this figure look great. So 1, you can take the cape off as well. So when you take that off, you can have a Spawn that has no cape. So we don't have a capeless Spawn yet in this series, or in the wave so far. So now we do, and you can pose it in different ways. You swap the heads if you want to switch it up, do whatever you want to do. But very cool. I've done some really cool photos with it as well, which let's see if I have one that I can access real quick. Yeah, like, like that one there, right? So really cool, right? I just think it's neat when you can get, him hanging there without a cape, etc. So very cool design, very cool look. That's why this one made number 3 on the list, because there's so much versatility and so much you can do with this figure. So if you have the opportunity, pick it up now, because there are some Christmas deals. I've seen them on McFarlaneToyStore.com, or I've seen some good deals at GameStop. So I highly encourage you to pick one up and see what it's all about. Okay, number 2 on the list is none other than the MK11 Spawn figure, and this was the original. So I think it's spectacular. 1, it came with a lot of good paint details. So remember, this was the first Spawn figure that we had that was articulated in a very, very long time, right? I think they had, what was it, maybe a 30th anniversary or something that had some articulation, but it wasn't the best. And I remember trying to think like, oh, I got to go to the store and buy the 30th anniversary one, but it's super expensive because I want an articulated Spawn to go in my collection. And then all of a sudden I got word that they were doing this, and this figure exceeded my expectation. I remember hunting for it in the wild and happened to find it at Target while they were stocking it, actually. But I just think everything about this figure is spectacular for a Spawn figure. So if you look close, right, all this stuff came blackwash. So you have blackwash cape, which looks really nice. They even did it on this version as well. Everything came blackwashed, all the pieces. Even if you look up close, right, look at the detail in the sculpt. It looks phenomenal, and it looks like they might have done some layering, so I don't think it's just straight black. It might be black with a little bit of gray over the top of it. I could be wrong, but it just looks that way, which looks good. You have blackwashing on the chains. It's got some pretty good articulation. Blackwashing on the boot. Right, they did the same with this one as well. This is the Lord Covenant variant. But I just think this is overall like one of the best Spawn figures we've gotten, just as far as sculpt, as far as articulation, just as far as everything. I absolutely love it. So that's why this one made number 2. It doesn't come with a whole lot, right? It's only a $20 figure, but I think for that price, like $20, that's a good price. Now it's hard. I know it's harder to find the original now, so I know you're going to pay a little bit more for that. But you can still get some of the variants and paint them if you need to. But yeah, that original MK11 Spawn definitely exceeded my expectations. One of my favorite Spawns in the entire collection, if not my favorite actual Spawn in the collection. So that is why this one made number 2 on the list. Okay, here with 2 more honorable mentions from the Spawn New Wave collection. So right now I have She-Spawn and I have King Spider. Now, She-Spawn did not come with this motorcycle. However, I did pose her on it because I did customize this one from the Death Metal Bat Cycle, by the way. You can check my quick customization on my YouTube channel if you'd like to check that out. But I just thought it posed well with her. But this Right, both of these figures I think are really good. I really enjoyed them a lot. They just didn't quite make my top 10 because there were so many good ones in the top 10. But if you look really close at She Spawn, and she was actually a deluxe. So she was $40 and did come with a bunch of extra weapons. So she came with a ton of weapons. You can look here, some decent paint applications. So her outfit is red. You have black, you have some white. You have chains, you have a real chain that it came with. They did some dry brushing there on her side there on that little spiked piece. The bullet holster looks really good there. Also, you can see her hair. They did dry brush a lighter, like yellowish color over the orange to really make it pop. So they did, like I said, they did a few little paint features on it. I did not do any customizing on her, even though I have done some customization on other McFarlane figures. But yeah, this one looks really good. Big fan of it. And then King Spider, right? Really good figure, right? They went with the solid white. They have green kind of swirled within the molding. So if you look really close, you can see kind of hints of green here and there. And then they went with kind of the green cloak and some of the green features. And I just think the body type and the muscular build of this is really, really good. So very good base for a figure. And I know they kind of switch it up from time to time. I don't think they really recycle the bases for the most part, or the molds. But this is a really good mold that you could definitely use for other things too if you needed to. And that face looks so good. Love that. So yeah, so these figures are really nice. Did not make the top 10, but really good figures. And if you have the opportunity to get them, I'd say pick them up. Okay, next on the honorable mentions list is Haunt and Plague Spawn. Both are very cool. Both have, obviously, the symbiote uniforms, I guess you could say, or the symbiote attached to it. Both have really good paint details. So when you look at it, so Haunt, right there with the flesh tone, obviously, for the bottom of the face. They did black wash it, or brown wash it, which looks nice. Kind of throughout, you have this really neat black that kind of fades to a white. And you can tell a lot of good paint detail there. Right, looks like they did some dry brushing over the top to make it just really kind of stand out and show off the textures. It does come with some symbiote strand pieces and a really cool base that's like that too. But overall, this is a really sick looking figure. It looks really nice. And they did a lot of the same stuff with Plague Spawn as well. So kind of with that same symbiote look. This one they did do black on the bottom and dry brushed a white over the top to show the textures. And then you have the really cool spikes on his back as well. And then kind of just the red for just some extra highlighting. But overall, both these figures are really great. Really good detail. Very good customization. They didn't make my top 10, but both are really great action figures. Okay, next on the honorable mentions list is Commando Spawn, which is from MK11. So technically this is MK11 branding, but it is a Spawn, so I did include the MK11 list on the Spawn. Best Spawn of all time with the new wave. So as you can see, this is the original. The weapon is from She Spawn, so it didn't come with that weapon. But right, have really good details kind of throughout. This is one I did customize, so I took the cape off and added some extra weapons. But kind of just wanted to highlight both. But both are really nice, right? Some really good details, good paint application. I did do a little customization work on it. Just some highlights, some silver touch-ups. And I did black wash the mask just to make it look a little bit better. But overall, really good detail. The articulation is not too bad on it. I really love the way it looks. I love the new Commando Spawn. However, it did not make my top 10 list, but is a really good figure and a really fun one to customize too, and really easy to customize. So if you do want to get one, now's the time to pick it up. I know right now it is December, and I just got a 50% off of MK11 figures on McFarlaneToyStore.com. So, I mean, if you go out and pick it up real soon, it's going to be like $10. So I did order a few more MK11 things off there because that's a really good deal. But overall, really great figure. Right, they recycled some of the stuff. The cape, obviously, is the same cape that came with the MK11 Spawn. But other than that, kind of all unique, all new, and looks really good. So definitely highly recommend. Okay, here we go. So this is neither on the list nor an honorable mention. I just thought this would be a good opportunity just to kind of talk about some of the models that I think were slightly underwhelming. So I have 3 of them that I want to talk about. And I didn't put these on the list because I didn't know how to put them on the list. It's hard to explain. So I did customize both of these to make them look better, and they do look better. But just kind of right out of the package, it was really interesting. Very interesting design. So one, Manga Spawn, very neat design. and very cool weaponry in the way they have it. So you have a cloth cape on the back, and the weaponry you can just pin on the back, which I think is like the coolest concept. And the weapons look really cool, like really, really cool. Came with a lot of gadgets and everything. Now the only problem is I customized this one to added some silver highlights just to make it look more detailed. But when it comes out of the box, it's literally just plain blue plastic, plain red plastic, and looks really, really cheap. So I was kind of disappointed and slightly underwhelmed because when I first saw the sneak peek, which I think was just the back of it, I think Todd was showing off some toys and just happened to give a sneak peek at the back. It's like, oh, it's gonna be sick, right? And then when I saw it, I was like, ooh, not quite what I was thinking. So I did see an opportunity, like I did see not an opportunity. Can't think of the word right now. But I saw promise as far as like or potential. That's the word. So saw potential into where what it could look like. And went with it, right? But just out of the box, it was very underwhelming. The other one I want to talk about is Overt Kill. So really cool character. Always love the character design from the comics. Now this one, I've noticed they did actually follow the comic accurate. I know a lot of us were like, oh, there's only one shoulder pad, or why does he look kind of like zombified or whatever, right? And I know this is from like around issue, I think 300 or something like that, when they kind of bring him back. I believe he works with Spawn for a bit and then gets blown up or destroyed when he goes to like some type of island. I can't remember. I just read it not too long ago, but kind of forgot some of the details. But it looks just like that. The only thing is I think we could have went with a different style, right? So even though it does have one, and that's how it was in that comic issue, I mean, we've seen Overkill. It looks kind of unproportioned, right? Like if it would have had another one, it just would have made it look a little better. The face, it could have went with a more kind of classic face, probably made it look a little better as well. But what I was more underwhelmed with was some of the paint application. Like the green, I repainted this and blackwashed it to make it look better, kind of more like the original, because it was just some really kind of, teal, plain plastic, and just looked really cheap, just kind of like Manga Spawn. Both of them just used really cheap materials, it seemed like. Not to mention Overkill is very, very hollow. So I was slightly underwhelmed by these two. So I just wanted to take that time to share. Not that they're bad figures by any means, because, Overkill, once you kind of add some paint to it, I think it looks cool. Could it look better? Yeah, I think so. And Manga Spawn looks amazing once you can kind of get some paint on it. So, like I said, you can check out my review or my customization video where I showed you kind of the process and what I did with Manga Spawn to make him look like that. Yeah, you can make him look really cool. I just wanted to add them to this list and talk about it because they were not what I was expecting. But yeah, just thought I'd share, but they can look good. So, cool. Okay, and then one more that I want to talk about as far as that was kind of underwhelming was actually Nightmare Spawn. So this was one that when I first heard the announcement, I was super stoked about because I remember some of the imagery, like of the original action figure that they had, and I remember how cool it looked and the concept art and everything, and I was super stoked about it. And then when you get it, it's just kind of like there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't quite live up to that hype, right? Like, the original had 2 gauntlets, right? You have 1, and I think the gauntlet looks okay. It looks fine, but right, there's none on the second. It just looks kind of scrawny and kind of weird, right? And I know in the comics too, right? They had kind of like the backwards ankles, for instance, right? Which is a little bit different. Not that that's a make or break for me, but right, that's different. And then it also had a cape in the original. Now, I added this cape on here. I did a little custom work, just something simple. I just wanted to add something to make it look a little better. And I think it does. It's not perfect, but I wanted to give it a cloak because that's also one thing that I thought looked really cool about it. It kind of just set it apart from the other ones. So I'm not going to talk too much about this one because I think overall it's a nice looking figure, but I didn't add it to the list or the honorable mentions because, like I said, I was kind of underwhelmed with it. It didn't kind of hit the expectations that I was expecting for it, right? Like I was expecting more, and didn't quite make it. But overall, like I said, not a bad figure, but just wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit here. So. Okay, and number 1 on the best top 10 spawns so far of the newer wave. So wave 1, 2, 3, and 4 is the Violator. I cannot say enough good things about this. This might be my favorite action figure in my entire collection, which is saying a lot because I have quite a few things from Marvel Select to NECA to McFarlane. So they really outdid themselves. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a $50 action figure, but compared to like Overt Kill, Cygor, or the new Omega Spawn, it far exceeds it. So let's look up close. So this is the bloody variant from GameStop that I just got not too long ago, which I got for half off. So I ended up getting it for like 20 bucks or something like that, which you can't beat that price. But yeah, look at the detail. So 1, You have a really cool kind of gray tone, and they did black wash it. So you have some black washing going throughout to really bring out that texture. Like the sculpt is insane. Now look at the horns, right? So it fades from brown to a lighter kind of beige color, which they dry brushed over it. You black washed it, so you can see good details showing up there. The horn on the top, the same, right? That cool fade from that darker tone to the lighter tone. Dry brushing throughout. You have a cool little wash on the mouth and on the eyes, and the jaw does open very wide. Just look at the detail. It's insane. Like, I can't believe this detail. It's amazing. It's been so long since we've seen something like this. It almost looks like a statue, except it's articulated. And not to mention, it's a solid figure, too. So this thing is super heavy, super dense. And what's crazy is even the ankles being as big as it stands really well. Like, that ankle articulation is so solid, it's not going anywhere, which is amazing. So it's phenomenal. So if you have the opportunity to pick up the Violator, get it. It looks great in any collection. It doesn't matter if you're teaming it up with, you know, some of your Marvel or Marvel Legends or your NECA toys. Like, it'll look good, right? It could be a menacing villain, monster, or whatever for it. And for $50, or if you find one at GameStop right now for half off, it's a steal of a deal. So really cool figure. So like I said, can't say enough of how great of a figure this is. And this made #1 on my list. Okay, thank you all so much for tuning into this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look through and potentially do a top 10 list of the top 10 Mortal Kombat figures so far. The top 10 maybe DC Multiverse figures. Maybe I'll do a more extended list of kind of all the figures that I own, top 10 list. But yeah, just keep making requests in the comments, and I'll look and see which ones I want to do. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.